Preparing for a solutions consulting at New Relic interview? You've reached Candy Mentor, and this video is for you. We'll walk through 20 key questions you're likely to face. For each question you'll see a sample answer followed by the key points to cover. Subscribe, like, and share, and drop a topic request in the comments. Question 1. How would you explain observability to a customer who understands monitoring but not the broader concept? Monitoring tells me whether known conditions are healthy. Observability helps me investigate why an unfamiliar problem is occurring. I explain it through 3 core signals. Metrics show trends, logs provide detailed events, and distributed traces reveal request paths across services. With New Relic, teams correlate those signals in one platform instead of switching tools. The value is faster root cause analysis, lower mean time to resolution, and better reliability decisions tied directly to user and business impact. While answering, distinguish monitoring from observability, explain metrics, events, logs, and traces, connect telemetry to unknown failure modes, and emphasize faster diagnosis, reduced downtime, improved customer experience, and measurable business outcomes. Question 2. How would you conduct discovery with a customer evaluating New Relic? I start by understanding the customer's business priorities, such as reducing checkout failures or improving release confidence. Then I map stakeholders, architecture, existing observability tools, incident workflow, and measurable pain points. I ask how incidents are detected, investigated, escalated, and reviewed. Finally, I agree on success criteria, timeline, integrations, and decision process. That discovery lets me tailor a relevant demonstration and avoid showing features that do not solve the customer's highest value problems. Make sure to cover stakeholder mapping, business objectives, current tooling, technical architecture, operational pain, success metrics, security constraints, buying process, and questions that uncover urgency rather than jumping directly into a product demonstration. Question 3. How would you demonstrate New Relic to an engineering leader and a business executive in the same meeting? I would use one customer scenario but change the level of detail for each audience. For the executive, I would show service health, customer impact, incident duration, and business risk. For the engineering leader, I would drill into traces, logs, deployment changes, and queryable telemetry. I would demonstrate a realistic failure, show how New Relic narrows the investigation, and quantify the outcome. The key is making technical evidence support an executive decision, not creating 2 disconnected presentations. In your answer, discuss audience-specific messaging, a shared business narrative, live telemetry, technical depth on demand, outcome-based metrics, controlled demonstrations, and explicitly connecting engineering improvements to revenue, risk, or customer satisfaction. Question 4. What is NRQL, and how would you use it during a customer proof of concept? NRQL is New Relic query language, used to analyze telemetry stored as events. During a proof of concept, I might query transaction duration by service and endpoint, then facet results by deployment or region to isolate patterns. I validate every query against a customer question rather than showcasing syntax alone. The same query can support a dashboard, alert, or incident investigation. I also explain that useful results depend on consistent instrumentation and meaningful attributes. Be sure to mention NRQL's event-based model, select and facet usage, filtering, aggregation, time windows, custom attributes, dashboarding, alert conditions, and validating queries against the customer's operational questions. Question 5. How would you explain distributed tracing and its value in a microservices environment? A distributed trace follows one request across multiple services, while spans represent individual operations within that journey. In a payment flow, tracing can reveal that the checkout API is healthy but waiting on a slow inventory service or database call. I would show the service map, latency waterfall, errors, and correlated logs. Trace context must propagate across service boundaries, including asynchronous systems where possible. The trade-off is telemetry volume, so sampling and retention should match investigation needs. Focus on trace, span, context propagation, service maps, latency breakdown, error attribution, asynchronous boundaries, sampling considerations, and how traces shorten root cause analysis across complex, distributed customer architectures. Question 6. How would you advise a customer choosing between New Relic agents and OpenTelemetry? I would first clarify whether the customer prioritizes rapid deployment, vendor neutrality, or maximum control over instrumentation. New Relic agents often provide fast, language-specific automatic instrumentation and deeper out-of-the-box context. OpenTelemetry offers an open standard, portable SDKs, and flexible collection pipelines. These approaches are not mutually exclusive. A customer can use OpenTelemetry instrumentation and send data to New Relic. I would recommend a tested path based on coverage, governance, skills, and the customer's migration strategy. Discuss customer goals, supported languages, vendor neutrality, automatic instrumentation, custom telemetry, operational ownership, feature coverage, migration effort, semantic conventions, and using OpenTelemetry alongside New Relic where it creates practical value. Question 7. A customer says their monitoring tools already provide dashboards and alerts. How would you position New Relic? I would not dismiss their current tools. I would ask how quickly teams identify an unknown issue, move from an alert to root cause, correlate application and infrastructure data, and understand customer impact. If those workflows require several consoles or manual handoffs, I would position New Relic around unified context and faster investigation. I would validate that claim with a focused use case, such as tracing a production checkout failure, then measure investigation time rather than comparing dashboards cosmetically. In your answer, acknowledge existing investments, uncover gaps in investigation and correlation, compare total operational workflow rather than feature checklists, discuss consolidation, telemetry context, user impact, and propose evidence through a focused evaluation. Question 8. How would you design a New Relic proof of concept for a large enterprise? I would define 1 or 2 business hypotheses, such as reducing payment incident resolution time by 30%. Then I would select representative services, instrument them, establish a baseline, and agree on measurable acceptance criteria. The evaluation would include engineers, operations, security, and an executive sponsor. I would schedule checkpoints, document integration effort, and demonstrate a realistic incident workflow. At the conclusion, I would present evidence, gaps, total effort, and a practical production rollout plan. Cover business hypothesis, representative applications, technical scope, instrumentation plan, success metrics, stakeholders, timeline, security review, enablement, baseline measurements, executive readout, and a clear conversion path after the evaluation. Question 9. How would you handle a customer concern about observability data security and compliance? I would begin by identifying what telemetry contains, where it is collected, who can access it, and which regulations apply. I would discuss removing or masking sensitive fields, applying least privilege roles, controlling retention, and reviewing encryption and regional requirements. I would provide current security and compliance documentation and involve the appropriate New Relic specialists for detailed questions. I would never promise a control without verification. The goal is a documented architecture that satisfies risk owners before production deployment. Mention data classification, sensitive attributes, masking, retention, access controls, encryption, regional requirements, auditability, least privilege, security documentation, legal review, and involving New Relic security specialists instead of making unsupported promises. Question 10. How would you troubleshoot a customer's failed New Relic agent deployment? I would isolate the problem systematically. First, I would confirm the runtime, agent version, license or authentication configuration, network egress, and required permissions. Next, I would inspect agent logs and verify whether data is reaching the expected account or entity. In containers, I would check environment variables, sidecars, image versions, and restart behavior. I would reproduce with the smallest supported configuration, document evidence, and escalate with timestamps, logs, and exact steps if platform support is needed. Be sure to cover environment validation, credentials, network connectivity, supported versions, configuration files, logs, permissions, container behavior, data arrival checks, minimal reproduction, documentation, and a structured escalation process. Question 11. How would you respond if a customer asks for a feature New Relic does not currently support? I would first understand the outcome behind the request rather than immediately saying no. If they need ownership-based routing, perhaps an existing alert workflow, webhook, or integration solves the immediate need. I would explain any limitation clearly, validate alternatives in their environment, and identify gaps that genuinely affect the decision. I would record product feedback and involve the account team, but I would not promise roadmap dates. Credibility matters more than forcing an optimistic answer. Discuss clarifying the underlying outcome, separating must-have behavior from preferred implementation, offering safe alternatives, validating limitations, documenting feedback, managing expectations, and preserving trust without overpromising roadmap commitments. Question 12. How would you design alerting for a customer without creating alert fatigue? I design alerts around actionable customer or service impact, not every unusual metric. I would start with service-level objectives, critical dependencies, and clear ownership. Thresholds or anomaly detection should reflect normal behavior, while severity determines escalation and notification channels. Alerts need useful context, links to dashboards, traces, and runbooks. I would review false positives, duplicate incidents, and missed detections regularly. A smaller set of trusted alerts usually improves response more than exhaustive metric coverage. Talk about actionable symptoms, service-level objectives, baseline behavior, thresholds, anomaly detection, severity, ownership, deduplication, notification channels, runbooks, testing, and reviewing alert quality using noise and missed incident metrics. Question 13. How would you explain New Relic's value to a DevOps or platform engineering team? For a platform team, I would frame New Relic as an enablement layer for consistent observability across many teams. They can standardize instrumentation, dashboards, alert policies, naming, and access while giving developers direct visibility into their services. I would demonstrate deployment correlation, golden signals, service maps, and reusable templates. The platform team can also measure adoption and telemetry cost. The outcome is less manual support, faster incident ownership, and reliability practices embedded into the delivery lifecycle. Mention instrumentation standards, self-service visibility, deployment correlation, golden signals, incident response, developer ownership, platform governance, reusable dashboards, automation, cost control, and improving reliability without creating another operational silo. Question 14. How would you use New Relic to investigate a sudden increase in application latency? I would first determine whether latency affects all users, regions, endpoints, or only a recent deployment. In New Relic, I would inspect throughput, error rate, latency percentiles, and transaction breakdowns, then use traces to identify the slow span. I would correlate that evidence with infrastructure saturation, database queries, logs, and deployment markers. If the problem began after a release, I would test rollback or mitigation. I would communicate the suspected cause, confidence level, impact, and recommended action clearly. Cover confirming scope, affected users, golden signals, transactions, distributed traces, infrastructure saturation, database dependencies, recent deployments, logs, geographic segmentation, and communicating findings with evidence and next actions. Question 15. How would you collaborate with an account executive during a complex New Relic sales cycle? I would align with the account executive on business drivers, decision criteria, stakeholders, timeline, competition, and my technical responsibilities. I would lead architecture discovery, demonstrations, validation, and risk identification while keeping the A informed through concise updates. Together, we would maintain a mutual action plan with owners and dates. I would flag feasibility concerns early, avoid unsupported commitments, and help the A connect technical proof to commercial value. Strong partnership creates a consistent customer experience. Include role clarity, discovery alignment, qualification, stakeholder strategy, technical validation, mutual action plans, risk tracking, competitive positioning, executive communication, honest feasibility assessment, and keeping customer outcomes ahead of internal handoffs. Question 16. Tell me about a time you influenced a skeptical engineering team to adopt a new solution. In a previous role, an engineering team resisted a new observability platform because migration seemed disruptive. I listened to their concerns, mapped the current incident workflow, and proposed a limited pilot on one service. We measured setup effort, investigation time, and alert quality before and after adoption. I included the engineers in instrumentation decisions and addressed gaps openly. The pilot reduced investigation time and created internal advocates. That evidence enabled a phased rollout instead of a forced migration. Prepare a concise STAR story covering skepticism, technical and organizational constraints, listening, evidence, pilot design, measurable results, objections, compromise, and how you earned trust without relying on authority. Question 17. How would you measure the success of a new Relic implementation after deployment? I would establish a baseline before implementation and agree on targets with both technical and business stakeholders. Useful measures include mean time to detect, mean time to resolve, incident recurrence, alert noise, service coverage, deployment correlation, and developer adoption. For digital experiences, I would include user performance and conversion impact. I would review results at defined milestones, combine quantitative data with stakeholder feedback, and adjust instrumentation or workflows where metrics show limited value. Discuss baseline and target metrics, mean time to detect, mean time to resolve, deployment frequency, change failure rate, alert quality, coverage, adoption, user experience, cost, stakeholder feedback, and reporting outcomes rather than activity alone. Question 18. How would you handle a live technical demonstration that starts failing in front of a customer? I would stay calm, acknowledge the issue, and avoid pretending the failure is part of the demo. I would quickly determine whether it is an environment, network, configuration, or platform problem. If recovery is fast, I would fix it, otherwise, I would switch to a prepared backup dataset or recording while explaining the intended workflow. I would keep the discussion focused on the customer outcome, capture the failure, and follow up promptly with a verified reproduction and answer. Mention preparation, environment validation, backup paths, transparency, diagnosis under pressure, keeping the business narrative moving, avoiding blame, using recorded evidence carefully, and following up with a confirmed working demonstration. Question 19. How would you explain the difference between logs, metrics, and traces to a non-technical stakeholder? I use a delivery analogy. Metrics are the dashboard showing that deliveries are getting slower. Logs are the detailed notes explaining individual events, such as an address error. A trace follows one package through every stage, showing exactly where time was spent. Each signal answers a different question, but their value increases when correlated. In New Relic, a stakeholder can see business impact first, while engineers move into the precise evidence needed to resolve the issue. Use an accessible analogy, define each signal's purpose, explain how they correlate during incidents, avoid excessive jargon, and connect the combined view to customer impact, operational decisions, and faster resolution. Question 20. Why do you want to be a solutions consultant at New Relic? I want this role because it combines technical depth, customer empathy, and measurable business impact. Observability is especially compelling because better visibility changes how teams build, release, and operate software. New Relic's broad platform and support for modern instrumentation create meaningful problems to solve across applications, infrastructure, and user experience. I enjoy translating complex architecture into clear decisions, proving value through practical demonstrations, and partnering with customers from discovery through adoption. That combination matches both my skills and motivation. Connect your motivation to observability, customer-facing technical problem-solving, New Relic's platform and open ecosystem, consultative selling, measurable outcomes, continuous learning, collaboration, and examples demonstrating credibility with engineers and executives. If you are still with us, congratulations. You are much ahead of the rest and serious about preparing for your interview. We hope we were able to add value to your preparation and create some helpful content. Do not forget to like and share this video. Your small act can do great things for us.